conversation. And I'm hoping Rosemary's got a lot to say today.
Hi, Rosemary.
Yeah, I came with the idea that I'd try to be quiet, but I am a 2.
I hope you're not quiet because the best way for us to
I
understand.
But the thing is, I tested, I used to be a 2 with a 3 wing, the hostess, but now I'm testing, a lot with 7 on. So 7, 2 with I guess I decided to go have fun.
I'm not sure about that, Rosemary. I gotta say, in all my years of study, I've never heard somebody change their personality type. I've heard that you become more and more mature and you become more and more involved and you more open up more and more. So it's interesting to me that you would see yourself stronger as 7, because what that would really mean would be, in my opinion, that on the positive side of the 7, you have set yourself free. You've come to that place of not worrying so much about being responsible and loving in a way that you deny your own needs for the needs of others to the point where it's not good for you. So it sounds great to me that you can see that evolution. It's beautiful.
But I definitely have been, for most of my life, a lot of my life, a 3 with a 2 with a very definite 2 with 3 wing.
Yeah, and the thing is,
I was very responsible as a young person.
Yes,
and less responsible as less and less. I grew less and less responsible.
Well, you know what, Rosemary, I want to suggest, and I want to ask this question. Did you really become less and less responsible, or did you become more and more free and more and more mature and more to have your pure essence of love come out without the strain and the connection of a responsibility?
Yeah, I realized I enjoyed doing what I was doing, and so now I just go, okay, I really enjoy doing this.
Exactly.
And I find that the Enneagram is wonderful because it just for me, it made me, I catch myself, and I just think it's worth a lot of laughs. I mean,
it is.
I go, oh, there I am again.
Yeah. That's a sweet way to see it. I mean, that's really a sweet way to see it, to say, there I am again. Hello, me. Hello, Miss 8.
Yeah.
Well, I hate to tell you, Jackie, but I did all the questionnaire.
Yes.
And you kept telling me I was a 1.
No, I said you have strong 1 tendencies.
Yeah,
I didn't say you're 1. Only you can decide what you are.
Well, number 9 I had the most, and number 1 was second. So
there you go. There you go.
You wing.
There you go. Could be a wing. But it's so good to be with you. And I've really had a good time this week, because for me, the 2, that's, for a long time, I was confused. I mean, it's like ironic that it should be true, but it can actually be true. For a long time, I struggled with whether I was an 8 or a 2, and I really, 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 really wanted to be a 2. No.
You know what, Jackie? It's amazing.
But the dark side of the 2.
I have a lot of friends who think they're 8s. I have a lot of 8 friends. It's funny. I don't know why.
Well, you know what the thing is, actually, the 8 and the 8 and the 2 have a very deep relationship to each other.
Oh, okay.
Because a 2, when a 2 is going to its freest, strongest side, it goes to the positive side of the 8.
Mm-hmm.
And oh no, I'm sorry, I got that wrong. The 2, when it's stressed, I'm sorry, I did that backwards. Yeah, the 2,
I go to the 8.
yes, when that's what I made a mistake. The 2, when it's in its most stressed place, when it's disintegrating, it goes to the negative side of the 8. In other words, it loves, it's pure love, it's beautiful. But then when it gets up, when the 2 is feeling wounded because it hasn't taken good care of itself, and it starts to get angry that it's feeling the person feels like they're not appreciated, they go to the special side of the 8.
And can
which is
become a bully,
mean and bullying and domineering and We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about that. That's Rosemary, I can see that. But the other side of it is that for you, when you go to your the positive side of the 8, when you can take the opposite side in terms of like, we don't have to go to the, when we're distressed and we go to the negative side, if we lean on the positive side of that personality, it really brings a blessing to us. And so for a 2 who is such a caregiver and so intently concerned about making sure everybody's okay, for them to go to the positive side of the 8 brings up their strength and allows them to be more clear about what they need and the way they need it and how they need it. So it's a good thing when a 2 can go to the strong side of the 8 and be able to claim more what they need with honesty. I want to tell you, I love 2s. I love everyone, but I wanted to be a 2 because, here's an interesting thing. They used to think Mother Teresa was a 2, right? Like, yeah, but guess what? They found out she's an 8. That made me feel better.
The 2 was my second highest score.
Hey, Jackie,
Yes.
can I read something that has to do with moving around the Enneagram and is related to Rosemary's thoughts about changing type?
Yeah, it's 6:02. So let's start with a prayer though.
Thank
And
you.
then we'll go right to Nancy because she's been talking to me about this and she has a really important thing that she wants to start our group with about the way that we understand our experience of the Enneagram. So let's just settle in for a minute and take a nice deep breath. Relax. And what I want you to imagine right now is that as we study the 9 personality types of the Enneagram, each in its purest essence is an image of God. Each personality type, when it's able to be free and confident in its love, brings out a beautiful gift that is a shimmering light of God that only they can bring. So imagine as we're discovering who we are, that we are discovering the shining spark of light of God that's uniquely ours to bring into the world. Holy and gracious one, how deeply we thank you that you have made us each uniquely and beautifully in your image. We thank you that you have not only made us beautifully and uniquely in your image, but you've also given us tools like this and opportunities to be together for healing and growth, to be set free from the confusion of this painful earthly world, to know your light and your love shining within us and through us. Bless us this night as we share the journey of who we are. We pray this in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Now, I'm looking for, okay, Miss Nancy. Miss Nancy wants to share something with us. She's been thinking about, just quick before she does it though, I want you to know that what's been really interesting in the last couple of classes already is that people have gotten in touch with me after class because certain things have moved them about the way we're speaking and the way we're thinking and the way we're considering things. And in each time that's happened, we've brought forward those ideas that have come up during the week to give us more energy and more knowledge and more wisdom and more freedom in our study. So Nancy was moved this week to talk about the idea of how do we understand what it means when we use the word move in the Enneagram. So take it away, Nance.
Okay, this is out of the Riso and Hudson book, Understanding the Enneagram, which I have found very useful to talk about it in more detail. It's kind of appealing to my side as a 5. But they have a chapter on the centers. The centers relate to the idea that there are 3 main components to human intelligence. The intelligence of the body, or the instincts, is traditionally located in the belly. And that's what the 3 types that are associated with the gut. The intelligence of the heart, the 3 types associated with the heart, is associated with emotion and feelings. And the intelligence of the head encompasses the cognitive functions. So we've got those 3 types, and or not types, but 3 triads of types. And then they go on later in the chapter to say, and this is what I thought was really important about what we understand when we talk about moving from one type to another, or aspect to another. Of course, we cannot will our centers into balance, but we can learn to relax more fully into ourselves by cultivating presence and by consistently seeking the truth of our situation. Thus, the centers reveal another reason why being present and aware is crucial to inner work. Presence is the medium in which the 3 centers can be unified. It is not the task of our egos to bring about this unification. Indeed, the ego, being partial, cannot create wholeness. Our task is to show up with as much presence as possible so that we can be worked on by grace. We make ourselves available to presence, for presence alone can harmonize the instincts, the heart, and the mind in such a way as to create a whole and complete human being. This is the goal of real inner work. That really spoke to me this week.
Is there anyone who would like to respond to that reading from Nancy? Just want to mull it over for a little bit. I think the important thing is what Nancy's talking about, and what is over and over brought up in this, is that we are really, in a way, although this work is challenging, it's a matter of a work to understand, opening up to the deeper essence of who we are. So these things, particularly when the Enneagram talks about the arrows of movement from, like, say, a 2 to an 8, or a 2 to a 4, those kinds of things, they're just trying to get you to move over to look at the essence, you in your mind, to be present to the essence of that other personality type, because all the personality types are inside us, right? And so the point being is that what we're trying to do is let the Holy Spirit, let God, let the divine love, divine love intelligence open us up to higher possibilities of who we are, to see our pure essence. Imagine that when a baby's born and you look into that baby's face, there's nothing there but pureness, right? There's no mark, there's no shift, there's no change yet. It's just this beautiful being that's come into this space before anything has been laid on top of it. And so when we look at our personality indicator type, what we're looking at, imagine we're looking at trying to go back to that baby before all kinds of experiences happen, to maybe tamp us down and talk us away from the beauty of how we express our unique being as a light of God's love, a perfect creation of God's love. So last week we talked about the perfectionist, and Richard Rohr calls that the perfectionist is the one who experienced in that very first moment when they were created, the beautiful perfection of the laying out of the universe and the whole course of life as it opens up and brings about beauty and love. So that's their essence. Today, we're going to talk about the 2, the personality style of 2, which is called the helper. And you know what their essence is? What their spark of light is, Rosemary? It is love. This love, the image of God in love. How wonderful is that? And the things that happen to a sweet little baby, pure face comes in, and their pure expression is love. And then all these things happen, and all these different ideas come because of the way the earth is and the way things happen and the way our bodies are and the things we need. So that beautiful little expression of love gets shifted and turned into something that needs some healing, needs to have things taken off it so that it can get back to its freest self, which is God's greatest desire for all of us, to be fully free to express ourselves just the beautiful way we are. So before we start into it, the one thing I wanted to talk about tonight was physical therapy. Yes, that's right, people. Physical therapy. I imagine that most of you have had physical therapy. Typically, there's a couple reasons why we get into physical therapy. Either we've had surgery, where something has either had to be removed and replaced or repaired, or we have a wound that we can't move our bodies anymore because we're in too much pain, whether it's a hip or a knee or a shoulder or an elbow, whatever, and we have to go to physical therapy. Now, the thing about physical therapy is this. It seems like it might be a nice thing. It seems like somebody might massage you and stretch you and do nice things for you, but no.
No, I was going to say.
Physical therapy should be called personal torture. The fact of the matter is that what happens with physical therapy is after the surgery is done, in order for full healing to happen, there has to be a working of that wound. It has to be moved. It has to be, even through the pain of getting used to the new way it needs to move, you have to move through that pain of the new way in order for it to stretch out and to be able to work again at its highest level. So picture that when you're listening to the Enneagram, it's sort of like God doing healing on you, a surgery, or for a repair, or some thought has to be repaired, or some thought has to be removed, or there's some thought inside you that keeps hurting you and limiting you, and it has to be healed. So in order for it to be healed, you go to a kind of a physical therapy but it's a spiritual physical therapy where you listen to the things that have to, the approaches that need to be changed and shifted, and then you practice and you keep practicing until you've incorporated that better way of thinking, that better way of moving in your life, and letting go of that which was in the past that was wounding and painful for you. So today, as we do our personality 2, I want you to all listen carefully, because as I said, we all have every single one of these personalities inside of us, and we all have these places where love can lift us up and show us new things that can help us to be even more beautiful than we were, because we can let go of old patterns that aren't helpful to us anymore. They're just not helpful. And they usually come from very early on as we're thinking. So for the number 2 personality, very early on, these sweet, darling balls of love got the message that they had to take care of. They got basically 3 messages, and it came in different ways. So this is what they heard. They heard they must put others' needs ahead of their own. It could have been for a lot of different reasons that they got this message. It could have been a struggling family. It could have been being the oldest. It could have been a number of different reasons that the little one gets the idea that they have to put others' needs before their own to show love. They also got the message that they have to give in order to get. That they have to be the loving, kind, generous one if somebody's going to ever love them. They can't just be themselves. They experience conditional love if they love well enough. Now, for whatever reason that message comes, that little wound comes into the heart of the child. That's a 2. It could come into all of our hearts, but we're going to talk about how it affects the child that at their heart, their helper, and their heart, their love. And then 3, they must earn a place in the affections of others, because love will not be simply given to them. They have to earn that love. So that's a little bit of the message as a child that personality, that helper, that little helper got. And we're going to look now at the material that I have to present for you that hopefully you all got in the mail. But before we go there, is there anything anybody wants to say about the journey of physical therapy on our souls, or the journey of a 2, anything that they think about that message of having to be the most loving, accepting, caring, putting other people's needs before you, to the level many times of not even being able to feel who you really are or knowing what you really want because you're too busy making sure everybody else is taken care of.
Well, what I was going to say, because I do have some too, but it's like, I don't know if I'm like all over the place, because my first highest is a 9, but then I go into a 1 and a 4 for my second, and then a 2 and a 6 for my third. I don't know if anybody else has gotten double things for like 2 or more.
Has anybody else gotten that where that, and that does happen. Has anybody else gotten tied scores?
I'm tied on 1 and 5
There you
for
go.
my first score,
Yeah.
my highest score.
So the thing that we're doing is there's a whole lot more material than we're using. We're using a very simplified presentation. And the reason we're doing it is because Margaret, and as you listen and as you read and when you get your material, think about what strikes you, because you're the only one, only you, any of you can determine ultimately which personality type you most lean towards as the most effective way for you to function in the world. Which one's your gift? Only you will be able to know it. But the way that you'll know it is by, like, for example, because I have a lot of 2 in me, while I was reading all the 2 and I was reading our stuff, it's lighting up for me all over the place. Oh yeah, I'm like that. Oh yeah, I can feel that. Oh yeah, that's part of me. So
Yeah.
I'm noticing when I'm listening to different types, which ones seem to give the message strongest towards me of my possibility of who I am. So that's the best way for us to do this, is for us to look at these and not necessarily worry too much that you have your answer. You might not have your answer. Just see how the one that you're listening to at this moment strikes you. Where does it catch you? Where do you say, oh yes, I have that in me? Or where do you say, no, that's not really a part of me. Like, I don't think ever in my entire life I would ever really fully, completely, I got other things, but would I fully ever put somebody's needs as much before mine as I think a 2 does. I know that's not. In other words, I won't quiet down if there's an issue. I'll be the first one out there going, yeah.
So Jack, I'm a number 6.
Yeah.
And I've always been a number 6. And I'm a solid number 6.
Yeah.
And I don't try to deny that, but
No, it's good not to.
we have to take into consideration nature and nurture. Nurture, son, like here's a good example of why some of those attributes of number 2 would affect me, but I rejected them because when I was growing up, I had a mother and a grandmother who tried to convince me otherwise, that I was something other, more of a 2 than a 1. I was always told that my feelings and my desires were not relevant. I should always put somebody else's, theirs usually, ahead of my own. And so some of that, those feelings may have been nurtured.
Absolutely.
And they're just definitely
That's
not part of the equation of this person sitting here. And another thing that I've noticed is there's some of these personality traits that we may fancy being a part of, and we kind of talk ourselves into being this, that, or the other thing. And that's the we've done the Enneagram before, and then if we're really honest about it, which is sometimes hard to do, we flesh out where we belong on this spectrum. That's all I got to say.
I think that's a really super observation, Andy. The fact of the matter is that we're born, like I said in the beginning, we're born like little babies. We already have the essence of who we are in the world, but then it's the world that gives us messages that helps to shape and form the way we react. But we have this essence inside us that when we can understand it and embrace it and be set free in it, we can let go of tension, let go of resistance, and be more expressive. But yes, something like your mother and father telling you, or or somebody telling you you should ignore your you need to pay more attention to other people's needs than your
Or we
own,
might
really
fancy
struggle.
being an asserter, because an asserter is what gets all of the attention here in this culture. And we might try to talk ourselves into being an asserter, but you know what? It's just not happening. And that's
Well,
what we
right.
fall
And
out.
that's what, yes. And so that's how we'll discover that. Andy's making good points. What do you think of what Andy's saying? Anybody
Well-
want to respond?
Well, one thing I just want to ask, somewhere I saw that we were supposed to kind of look at it as if we're 25 years old or earlier. Where did I get that from? I read it somewhere.
That's written in a couple of different places that we should try to take the test if you can remember what you were like at 25. But frankly, most of us in this room probably can barely remember what we were like at 25.
Yeah.
So that's not going to be really working for us.
All
But
right.
but
Okay.
so what I try to do with the test all the time is I try to say, just answer right now at your purest response. Just go with your purest response right now. And because we're going to do lengthy conversation around stuff, it's going to help you, Margaret, to figure out
Right.
which one fits you. And so, yes, we have layers of information over the top of us. And really what we're trying to do is it's a kind of surgery. We're trying to find what that purest thing is in us, and then see the ways we've been hurt and let go of those things that have caused us to react in the world in pain, in order for us to be more relaxed and free and celebrate and enjoy and be the richest expression of ourselves. So that's what it's all about. So here we go. Is there anything else?
I think
Roger.
Roger's
I
been trying
do
to say
have-
something.
Yeah, Roger.
This sheet that you sent to us, I was able to sit down with it today, and the number 2 personality was the second highest in my test.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a lot of reasons why, but what I found really helpful with this is that I lean toward an introverted side, which when I first took the personality test, I didn't realize the introvert and the extroverted side. This helped me look a little farther inside of myself to see where I can be in both places at once.
Excellent. That's another really good point that Roger's making, is that no one, even Andy, who keeps saying I'm a pure 6.
And don't you forget it.
Pure 6. Mr. Pure
Don't you
6
forget
has
it.
a wing. He has a wing.
I would question Jesus himself.
Oh, gee.
And you have on many occasions.
I know.
If we're ready, I'm going to bring up the sheet now. Did you want to say something, Rosemary?
Yeah, I was just, you said one of the, my mother used to say to me early on, when you were only 18 months old, she said, I brought your sister home and you were my helper right away.
Nice, Mom. There you go.
And then later on in life, she, after I had grown up and had a family, she said, and you know what, Rosemary, she said, you were born in the middle of a party. I guess that's why you like to give parties. Why do you think I became a hostess?
I would say that's a sweet 3 wing on a 2.
I do have a
I was branded.
I was branded. We were all branded. It's true.
I have a reaction to your physical therapy model.
Yes.
And that is that I think it's important to highlight that you talked about God as being like the surgeon.
Yes.
And I think God is like the therapist. We don't do physical therapy all by ourselves. What we do is be open to being told how to move.
Very
And
good point. I like that.
So I think your metaphor works as long as you keep that focus that we don't will something ourselves. We try to be aware,
Right.
so the grace of God can work on us.
Well, there's a will. Okay, let's put it this way. The will is that you show up for surgery, and the will is that you work with the therapist.
Right.
know,
And
so
that's
you
where
do
we
have a
will
will.
a presence,
You do
That's-
have a will. That's the presence, exactly.
that
And
you're
I-
willing to be present.
Right. And I want to suggest, going with your metaphor, that I kind of think of Christ as the overall model of the total Enneagram, the expression of the total 9 personalities put in perfection together. I think of God Almighty as the surgeon who desires our healing. And I think of the Holy Spirit as our physical therapist. That's how I see it.
Hmm.
Like,
I like
3,
that.
3 in 1.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. I love that you keep reminding us of that stuff, Nancy. That's so important. So is there anything else anybody wants to say before we bring up our number 2 and we start looking at some of this stuff in the 2? You ready? All right, here we go. This is the same thing that you all received in the mail. Okay. Is that clear enough for everyone? Can you see it all right?
Yes.
Yeah, I can.
Okay. So this is the helper. We are all here on earth to help others. What on earth the others are here for, I don't know. Okay, 2s are motivated by the need to be loved and valued and to express their positive feelings towards others. Traditional society has encouraged 2 qualities in females more than in males. Can you imagine that?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. All right, so 2s at their best are loving, caring, adaptable, insightful, generous, enthusiastic, and tuned into how people feel. I just want to point out in the tuned into how people feel, has anybody ever experienced that idea of, are you the kind of person that can walk in a room and you can look around the room and you can see the looks on people's faces and you already know how they're feeling? If you have that, that's a high level of the intuitive gift of the 2. It's both a wonderful gift, but it's also a hard burden, because when you can be really aware of other people's feelings, you don't necessarily know why they have their feelings, but it's very hard on you in some ways to be very aware the fact that people are you can feel their feelings when you're in a room, unless you're strong enough to be okay that it's not about you. Often in our early stages of development, when we walk into a room and we can feel people's feelings, we can see they're having some kind of emotional reaction. We can tend, when we're younger, and this is hard on us, we can tend as children to take it as if somehow it's our fault or it's something we have to take care of. That's part of what happens with the 2 that makes that can be very challenging for as you're growing up, is that sense of awareness of how people are feeling and how it affects you.
What I have is a high empathic awareness with people.
Yeah.
I take on, if somebody's sad, I take on their sadness. I just feel it in myself, and I can't seem to have a boundary so that I don't get so empathic with people and take that on.
Well, that's a very high quality in the personality trait of a 2, Margaret.
Mm.
And there are ways that we're going to talk about. We try to do a little bit here all the time, and you can research them more, but there are certain things, certain ways of being and doing to take care of yourself, because that empathy that you have is it's a gift at one level, and at another level it's a burden, and you have to learn how to take very good care of yourselves. And the thing with this personality is that they get so into what the other person's feeling and what's happening that they forget to take care. They have a hard time taking care of their own needs. So that's what I think you're talking about. Can you see what Margaret's saying, that dilemma in the caring? So at their worst, when you're really stressed out and you can't take anymore, and you can be martyr-like, indirect, manipulative, possessive, hysterical, over-accommodating, or overly demonstrative. Some of the more extroverted 2s can be that way. Now, we have to remember, when we look at these at the best and at the worst, that when we're talking about the at the worst, we're talking about somebody really suffering. Nobody is all these things all the time. but they're kind of like little markers in a way. If you find yourself, if you all of a sudden go, whoa, there I am, I'm acting like a martyr, think of it more like a flag that says, what are you doing? How are you not taking care of yourself? What do you need to do to take care of you? You know what I mean? It's not like, sometimes we can look at the at the worst and make it sound like, oh, look how horrible you are. I almost don't like they use that word worst. I would rather them say something. I wish that we had a better word than at the worst. I like this little presentation, but I don't really appreciate that word.
It's
Yeah.
when they're stressed.
I agree.
Or you know, you could be this way if you're not mature, if you're not developed in your immaturity, you can be like that. We all have immaturity. So I think it's easy enough to say that sometimes, like, that we can, if we don't have all the tools and understandings, we can respond these ways. So that, like, if we could cross that word out and put another one in, I would, but I'm honoring the people who wrote the book. So
You're
is anybody
tuned
else?
into how others people feel. I had an example one time where a guy was telling me something and I knew that wasn't what he was thinking. And I answered what he was thinking. And he got really angry and said, I hate it when you answer what I'm thinking rather than what I'm saying.
Well, now.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny.
That is pretty funny. Does anybody else want to say anything before we move on? Okay. So here we go. How to get along with me. Tell me that you appreciate me and be specific. Share fun times with me. Take an interest in my problems, though I will probably try to focus on yours. Let me know I'm important and special to you. Be gentle if you decide to criticize me. Now, can you see why that would be in the essence of the one that wants to love the most and wants to give the most? Can you see how that's really important? Those ideas, those suggestions about how to care for and respect someone who is of the two personality.
I can, yeah, I can see.
Sure.
What, Margaret, tell me, can you flesh out a little more about what you can see in that?
Well, I can very easily feel unimportant and I don't know, unseen, not validated or whatever. And so I guess I kind of do need people to be gentle when they criticize and to let me know that I am important. And I do mean something. People care about me. Because a lot of times I feel people wouldn't care about me. So I can see that, yeah.
And you know, Margaret, it's really wonderful that you're saying that, because the thing is twos are so high, such high carers, that it's really easy to not feel the care coming back. I mean,
Why
you know
is that though? I
because
don't know.
well, because think of it this way. You're the helper personality is pouring out such attentiveness. Like, for an example, one thing, like you could imagine that a helper is going to be very aware of the needs of the people in a room. And they're going to try to do what they can to help. They're going to try to be sensitive and caring to, and they're going to think that way. Now, if they're thinking that strong about it and somebody else is in the room who doesn't have that view at all, can you think about how much that the helper carer can be sensitive to the lack of help and care, because they're so aware of the help and care. And it can be very painful on the helper to have to feel that. Matter of fact, one of the biggest issues for the helper is everything you just said, Margaret. Helpers struggle with feeling worthless.
When I was doing this decades ago, they said, think of a song that would think of a song that fits you as a two. And I'd go, well, you're nobody till somebody loves you. You're nobody till somebody cares.
Yeah.
And
I got a good song. Bob Dylan's "Don't Think Twice, It's All Right." That really reminds me of being in a relationship with an unhealthy number two.
tell me you
Good one,
love her.
Andy.
I don't-
What is it? 'Cause I
I
love Bob Dylan.
That's a good one, Andy.
Yeah.
Okay, so now.
Or it ain't me, babe.
Oh, okay. I get it.
Oh,
Yep.
man, Andy. Okay, so in intimate relationships, reassure me that I'm interesting to you. Reassure me often that you love me. Tell me I'm attractive and you're glad to be seen with me. I mean, remember, everybody wants these things, but just imagine that a 2 with the deep sense of not being visible, not being cared for, feeling like they have to try to earn love all the time. Can you see why that's so important in the way that you love and care for a 2?
You can see where it'd be very difficult to be in a relationship with a person like that.
Yeah,
but you know, actually,
That
And-
needs constant
Reassurance.
verification. I think
Yeah.
that'd be tough.
I know, it's tough. It's
I
tough to
was
live with
married.
yourself too.
I was married to a 6 and we lasted for 72 years in a really nice relationship.
and you know
But
why?
it took a lot of work.
Yeah, it took a lot of work. But here's the thing, 2s, now look at this, Andy. 2s at their best in relationship. Remember, we're talking about, you know, all of us on a tender journey of growth. All right.
You're talking about a healthy 2 now.
Right. I'm talking about
I'm talking about an unhealthy 2.
I know. Well, you know, I want to say any unhealthy personality type, being in a relationship with them is enough to, you know, drive you around a bend.
Especially a 6.
Yeah, really. No. Okay. 2s
They're
at
a
their
special
best.
case.
Diane Pierce, are you laughing at me?
So 2s at their best in a relationship are attentive, appreciative, generous, warm, playful, and nurturing. 2s make their partners feel special and loved.
Yeah, Andy, I've known you too long, and I want to tell you that I believe you are a strong 6.
You know that you know what? You know me
I
better
believe
than
you
just
are.
about anyone.
Okay, kids, we
I
have to
miss
stay
you,
on 2.
Diane Pierce.
Yep.
Kids, we have to stay on 2 today. We only have so much time here. Okay.
Yes, Mom.
Believe me, you're gonna get your turns. Okay. 2 at their worst in relationship are controlling, possessive, needy, and insincere. Since they have trouble asking directly, they tend to manipulate to get what they want. Do you know why 2s have a hard time asking for things directly?
As they feel they don't deserve them.
Well, that, but also number 1, they're so focused on taking care of the needs of others, it's really hard for them to even know what they need. They don't know because they're not paying attention. They don't pay attention. They deny themselves. And number 2, it's very difficult for them to ask, like you said, because they feel unworthy.
All of this sounds like a Jewish mother.
Exactly.
Oh, I do all this.
Actually, to tell you the truth, a couple of the books talk about the idea of that stereotypical expression of the Jewish mother. Oh, after everything I've done for you, I was in birth for 12 hours with you, and this is the way you treat me.
You know, anybody who says that has not read the Old Testament females, because none of them were like that.
No, we're talking
Right.
about people today, Andy. We're not talking about the Old Testament. We're talking about people today.
Right.
And actually, if you listen to each one of our different cultural and ethnic expressions, you know, we can't, unless we're that, we shouldn't be making fun of it. But I have listened to a lot of different comedians make fun of their ethnic culture and their mothers. And one of the things that they do poke fun at with Jewish mothers is, in fact, the way their Jewish mothers will say, I sacrificed everything for you, and this is what I get back. And that's kind of the thing. All right. So what I like about being a 2. So, but the point being is, you know, like that, it's different. We can see in our culture and in different expressions in our world, these stories, and we poke fun at them and we make jokes about who we are and about our culture and our families. Like, boy, I could tell you 57 jokes about being Polish. I got the Polish people down really well, and I can tell you funny stuff about them. But the point I'm making is that all of these cultural experiences, they shape us. And out of the shape of those things is where we can look through humor at places where maybe sometimes we want to let go and relax a little bit, right? So that's the beauty of being able to have humor. We need to be careful in humor to be really respectful and loving of each other. So
Right.
I have engineered jokes.
there you go.
That
See, we
is-
all have them.
That is a specialized category. I just want you to know.
That's right. Priest jokes. You should hear the priest jokes I have. And the priest jokes are nothing in comparison to my son's PK jokes. Or KP, however you tell it. Your preacher's kid, PK
Yeah.
jokes. I have to bear the burden a lot of those. So onward we go. What I like about being a 2, being able to relate easily to people and to make friends, knowing what people need and being able to make their lives better, being generous and caring and warm, being sensitive to and perceptive about other people's feelings, being enthusiastic and fun-loving, and having a good sense of humor. Anybody in 2 world wants to say anything about those things? Do you like those things? Do you notice those things in yourself?
Rosemary has a good sense of humor.
Roger, you said you're really close. You really have a strong 2. Are there anything in those statements about what I like about being a 2? Are there things in there that you like about the gifts that you bring to the world? You're muted, honey. You're muted.
Oh,
I have a lot of background noise, so I do mute. Yeah. Sensitive and perceptive to others' feelings, being generous and caring and warm,
Yeah.
and try to relate easily to people. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
I found that a long time ago, I thought I didn't like people, but I really do like being around people. I was just afraid to be around them
Yeah.
because of my self-esteem, which it'll say in here too.
Yeah. Yeah. So the beautiful thing, Roger, is in those gifts. Those gifts can become even more rich and strong the more that you can step back and see that for all of us. But when we can see the things we like about the personality and we can feel those things in us, we can make them even more rich and strong as we understand how to let go of the places where we feel pain. So here's where we feel pain. What's hard about being a 2? Not being able to say no, having low self-esteem, feeling drained from overdoing for others, not doing things I really like to do for myself for fear of being selfish, criticizing myself for not feeling as loving as I think I should, being upset that others don't tune into me as much as I tune into them, working so hard to be tactful and considerate that I suppress my real feelings. Those are big.
yeah, yep.
Those are big. Does anybody have any of those experiences?
The early childhood for me was working so hard to be tactful and considerate that I had to suppress my real feelings,
Yeah.
taking
Yeah.
care of my kid brothers and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
not making too many waves to create an uproar.
Yep. Yes. Anyone else want to say anything about this side, the struggle side of being a 2?
Well, the fear of being selfish, I always have that kind of a fear in me.
Mhm. And the ironic thing is people who are usually afraid of being selfish are usually the most generous people of all. You know, it's like people say, you say, oh, I'm afraid I'm being selfish. And everybody's looking at you going, what? Really? Why? You're wonderful.
I love that.
Isn't that a great image?
That, you know what that reminds me of the opposite of me. Because I remember when I was doing hospitality at St. Paul's, eat up, clean up, and get out. Because I'm cleaning up and I'm getting out of here. I never had any problems telling people I've had enough. So I cannot identify with this at all.
Solidly, once again, Andy, solidly not in the 2.
I know, he's the one that said he was a 6, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so typical thoughts of a 2. See what you think. Rosemary, I'd like to say a little something to you. So
I
did
know,
I take?
I think I've talked too much.
There you go. That's what I was going to say. The very
Yeah,
first thing that you said when you came
that's
in was
me.
that.
I go, oh my goodness, I talked too much again, and I'm thinking about it now. That's why I keep muting myself. So
Yes,
I go,
and Rosemary, I love that. I love that about you. Number one, you always have wonderful things to say. But number two, I just thought when I read these, I said to myself, I said, I wonder if Rosemary's gonna pick up on the fact that the first thing she said to me when she got on the class tonight was, I'm worried I'm going to talk too much. I said, Rosemary, I hope you'll talk a lot tonight because we really want to have a two tell us about the experience. And she goes, oh, I'm worried about talking too much. They do too.
Hey,
yeah, I
hey,
know.
hey,
but-
hey, Jack, I just comment, even though I'm not a two, I comment because I see certain things on here that are totally the opposite of what I am.
And
So
I
it's
love,
like,
I love
my
hearing
advice-
from Andy because I
my
love
advice will really help him out. Now, you know me. I'd like people to take my advice, but what I'd like to do is give him enough rope to hang himself, and that's how he'll learn.
Now you realize how hard I worked in my marriage. I was married to him, although he was.
One, I'm glad we're talking about this.
So this is, yeah, this is very
being
good.
married
My
to, being married to a six can be a spiritual journey.
You're supposed to be one of the worst ones to be hooked up to.
It doesn't say that anywhere, Andy.
Oh, you said that.
No, I've never said that because that's not at all true. No personality type
I'm
is
just
worse
making-
than
I'm
another,
just-
mister. No
I'm just looking-
personality type.
I'm just trying to look for some levity.
I know, but I'm just making sure that we don't get people worried that somehow one personality is better than another. All right, so here we go. Twos as children often are very sensitive to disapproval and criticism. Try hard to please their parents by being helpful and understanding. Are outwardly compliant. Are popular or try to be popular with other children. Act coy, precocious, or dramatic in order to get attention. Are clowns and jokers, the more extroverted twos, or quiet and shy, the more introverted twos.
This is where this sheet helped me see the introverted side of me
Yeah.
rather than the extroverted. When I was going through the questionnaire, I said, geez, I might have answered a little different had I had this information about myself.
Well, see, that's why we're doing the class.
You're right. That's the,
That's why you're here, darling. Twos as parents are good listeners, love their children unconditionally, and are warm and encouraging, suffering guilt if they're not. They are often playful with their children and wonder, am I doing it right? Am I giving enough? Have I caused irreparable damage?
No,
All parents have caused irreparable damage.
I want to say there, I don't think there's one of us that doesn't wonder that. I used to tell my children all the time when things would be going wild, I'd say things to them like, what do you think I'm doing this for? This is so you have some information to take to the couch when you see the therapist. Where will you get it if you don't get it from me? They can be fiercely protective. So, you know, like an example, every one of us here could probably at some level as in parenting identify with these. That's why it's important to recognize that we have all of this in us. But which one does your essence express itself out of most fully? And how do we get the healing? Now, careers. Twos usually prefer to work with people, often in the helping professions, counselors, teachers, and health workers. Extroverted twos are sometimes found in the limelight as actresses, actors, and motivational speakers. Twos also work in sales and help others as receptionists, secretaries, assistants, decorators, and clothing consultants.
Rosemary, what did you do?
I was a kindergarten teacher. And I worked at church. I was a church worker and a volunteer. I was a volunteer most of my life, and I was the canon for the ministry of the laity. I don't know. I was a dilettante. I never, everything I got into, they put me in charge of. I don't know why that, but I was a dietitian for a while. I was a kindergarten teacher. I was a history teacher. I was a Sunday school teacher.
But all of those things are caring.
Caring, yeah, right.
And the volunteering, I think, is really significant. I'm surprised they don't list that, because volunteering would be a way of giving,
Right.
and you could easily feel underappreciated.
Yeah,
Well,
I think,
actually,
yeah.
In the free time, it says working for charitable organizations. So
Yeah,
Okay,
that probably takes that, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Margaret, how about you? Have you, Margaret, in your journey, did you find yourself gravitating towards helping fields?
Well, I was a biology major, but that I was going to go into marine biology.
Uh-huh.
I didn't want to work with people. That was one of the things, actually. But then I had artistic talents that one of my professors said, well, you could combine art and science and do scientific illustration. So
Ooh.
yeah, but I kind of actually ended up being like a graphic designer,
Mhm.
that type of thing.
So artistic. So some of that sounds like a 4.
Well, actually, yeah, in my second, because, well, first of all was 9, and then the
Mhm.
second was a 1 and a 4,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Oh,
it
there you
became
go.
then 2 and a 6. So I'm
Okay.
all over the place.
Well, that's good though. You know what? I'm going to tell you something. When you keep saying that, that's probably a reinforcement that you're a 9. Because
Oh.
9s typically take on in various ways the different personalities. So
Ah.
there's a good chance that the fact that you have all of those ties and you're all over the place, I would really focus on the 9, Margaret, and see how that goes for you. I think that could really be that could be the way, that could be your path.
Yeah, okay. Thank
So
you.
Roger, how about you? Did in your career, did you lean towards the like people kind of thing?
Actually, in my career, this is where I disassociate from the two. I didn't want to work with people. I wanted to work independently.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
hey, you volunteer all the time now for Bread Box, so you're always volunteering.
Yeah, but as a career, as for
Oh.
full time, because it's a volunteer, I can say no if I want to. As my full time career, I didn't want to be working with people all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, and
But
I.
but that's
and I-
introvert.
and
Yeah,
I
that's
couldn't
introvert.
stand-
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, it
couldn't
could be,
stand
yeah.
Working with people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that, this little section here, I kind of thought to myself, I should cut this out in a way, but no, I think it's good for us to talk about what happened in your world. So in free time, 2s enjoy socializing with family or friends, caring for children, making their homes warm and inviting, gardening, reading, working for charitable organizations, having new experiences in the outside world, and exploring their inner world. Many 2s take special care of their appearance.
One of the things I really have found that I love doing is nominating people for awards and writing obituaries, eulogies, writing eulogies. And it's amazing that I really love doing that for people. So,
That's a beautiful thing, Rosemary. That's a beautiful thing, and I can see that very much as the essence of love being expressed.
yeah,
Yeah,
I just love it I've gotten more people awards nominating them.
Yeah.
And I go, and I guess I'm sort of proud of that. That I can, get
well,
that.
I think you should be. All right, here we go. Comments about 2s. She is loved by many because she gives so generously of herself. When a friend had cancer, she was the main support for the family while still managing to put energy into her career. My 2 friends are easy for me to be around. They are lighthearted and playful, as well as having tremendous depth and wisdom. I wish I could articulate my feelings as well as they can. He is a wonderful father. He showers his children with attention, generosity, and love. When I have a problem, I call my 2 friend. She's always perceptive, sympathetic, and non-judgmental. So take those comments when you're trying to discover who you are and ask yourself the question, what do we read into those descriptions of the two? Remember, there's all these levels of development and maturity. There's all these levels of woundedness and healing that are coming in us. So just imagine what these are saying. Like the natural tendency of a 2 is to be generous, to be open and welcoming of others, to be thoughtful and be trying to figure out the highest way to care and love others. You can see that feel in there, right? In those comments.
Yeah.
So wings. Your personality may blend into or be influenced by the types on either side of yours. A strong wing can make a big difference in your personality. 2s with a stronger one wing tend to be more idealistic, objective, self-critical, and judgmental. They're harder on themselves. 2s with a stronger 3 wing tend to be more self-assured, ambitious, outgoing, and competitive.
Which wing is stronger for you, Rosemary? A 1?
Rosemary, are you muted? I think you're muted, Rosemary.
Okay, yeah, I'm definitely a 3 because Rizzo calls the 2 with a 3 wing a hostess, and I give a lot of parties,
Okay.
I've spent my life, I've given 40 New Year's Eve parties
Well, I think also another indication of the 3 for Rosemary is when she was just talking about all the things that she did in her career. And she said, I don't know why, but they always put me in a leadership role. A 2 with a 3 wing is going to be more apt to be outgoing and stronger from that direction. It's more of a chance that they'll be put in leadership roles, whereas a 2 with a more 1 wing is going to be more introverted, what Roger would say. So Roger, I would say that probably in your case, that 2 has a higher influence with the 1 wing. And in terms of and I think knowing you, as I know you, Roger, I would say it's really true that you go deep in and you look a lot at who you are, and you have that aspect of the 2 with the 1 wing that is we could use these words a little differently, but has that self-critical and working on yourself side.
Yes.
Deep working on yourself a lot.
Introspective.
Right. But I mean, I'm for more direct, I would say, I noticed Roger over the years that I've known him to be pretty hard on himself.
Oh, okay.
He's
Not
a bit
okay.
he's a bit of a perfectionist too.
Right.
Yep.
So moving around the Enneagram, and when they're saying moving, they don't mean you're forcing yourself to go there. They're saying this is just look at the flow. Okay, so like what Nancy was trying to remind us of when we were talking about move before. Move isn't you saying, I'm going to get up and go over and be a 2. I'm going to get up and be a 1, not like that. It's more the flow, the natural flow that goes through you. So following the lines of the diagram, the 2 moves toward the 4 in one direction and toward the 8 in the other. And they just mean how your own heart goes back and forth. They don't mean you choosing to go there on your own. It just happens. And then they're saying, if your heart's there, what can you do in that circumstance for healing, right? So the 2s move towards the positive side of 4 when they feel secure. They can also consciously cultivate these positive qualities. So we can engage in it when the spirit leads us there, we can engage. 2s move towards the negative side of 8 when they stress. They can consciously try to avoid these negative traits. Avoid the 8 like a plague, people. Read the chapters about types 4 and 8 to learn about them. When the 2 moves towards the positive side of 4, they admit and accept their painful feelings, including anger, sadness, and loneliness, express themselves more creatively and artistically, and explore their inner world. In other words, 4s are very aware of what they feel. 2s are not really aware of what they feel. They keep putting their feelings aside so they can care for everybody else. So when you go to the positive side of the 4, you become more, you claim your own feelings and your need to care for yourself. And then of course the 4s have the artistic side. They express their own needs more, including saying no find other sources of self-worth besides helping, and learn to be alone and become contemplative. When twos move towards the negative side of the 4, when their spirit goes that way, they compare themselves to others, lament, and feel envious, become more self-absorbed, withdrawn, and depressed. See, these things can happen to us. Like, think of it this way. Something happens in your life that is you're suffering with. Someone, well, I'll give it, someone dies that you love, right? Or someone gets sick that you love, or you lose a job, or something happens, something happens. It's not like you have to know that you have flags that tell you when you're wearing down, so you can take better care of yourself. So imagine that these moving to this side to see these things coming out in yourself is your heart and your mind and your body are saying, try to rest back in the love of God and take a breath, because there's wounds that are coming up right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yep.
So it's a good way to open up to prayer and to rest and to see what you need to do to take care of yourself. Okay, when twos move toward the negative side of 8, they stop being kind and loving and become irritable and attack sharply. Become hardened, distrustful, and isolated, blame and make demands, become controlling, and take charge of everyone and everything. Now, anybody that's a 2, can you tell me why that happens to you?
Sure. Yeah. I can be so helpful that I can stop all the action in the committee. I got to practice that one time. It was amazing. But when I felt dismissed from the church,
That was a gashing wound. That was a gashing wound.
That it still hurts.
Yeah,
it still hurts.
Exactly, and I'm sorry for that. Yeah.
But the thing is, to go more. That's how I became part of this community that was so loving. You see, St. Paul saved me. I came into the to St. Paul's, and that helped me go through some of it. But I did get pretty nasty with it too. I did do a lot of blaming and criticizing. So. Yeah.
Right. When we're hurt, thank you, Rosemary. That's such a good example. When you're hurt,
right,
this is the way you go.
Mm-hmm.
When you're really hurt, when you're really exhausted, when you're really stressed out, when you really feel like you're the one carrying all the load, and whoever you're supposed to be working with as a loving partner is not carrying any of the load, you can go here.
No, and Ralph was dying, and they left me, and I go, and it really hurt. So I really was pretty nasty with them sometimes too. But
and those are, when you feel those things, it's really hard for a 2, because a 2 can't stand being like that. So that makes it makes it hard to just be able to own that's what I'm doing right now, and I need to step back and breathe and let people love me and admit that I'm hurting. To see, the thing that's hard for a 2 is to ever say that they're hurting and they need.
Right.
So that's what these things show you, that those messages show you, and it's okay. And everybody
helped.
But you just don't trust it. You don't trust it. It's hard, and it's very brave when you can step forward in love and say, I need, like Rosemary, that's what you did. You did a beautiful thing. You came to St. Paul's and you said, I need, I really need, I'm hurt, and I need a community that will surround me and love me. That was super brave of you as a 2. Super.
It's what they talk about as it's a really healthy aspect of a 2 when they can do that, right?
Yeah, it's really hard to get there. It's really hard to get there. So 2s who move toward the positive side of 8 feel more self-confident and powerful, become more honest and straightforward, and become less concerned with others' opinions of them. Now, here's some important stuff. Practical suggestions and exercises for 2. Engage in some activities that give you pleasure and satisfaction, but do not involve being with others. There you go. Exercise, meditate, walk alone to bring the focus back to yourself. Reparent your inner child by talking to yourself in nurturing and loving ways as you would to a real child, only you stay in the parent stance. And give yourself some attention and pampering that you usually give to others. See how that's all about bringing back the self-love to yourself when you're struggling. Go to a counselor regularly to learn how to discuss your own problems. What's nice, I think, about the recommendation for a 2 to go to a counselor when they need to, what's really good about that is that the 2 can really, a lot of times, feel the freedom to talk about what they need and how they're feeling with somebody they're paying. Because it takes the pressure off. You're not going to try to take care of the person you're paying to take care of you. I mean, I'm serious. I think that was a really great recommendation in there, because it's really hard for 2s to ever sit with a friend and talk about what's going on for them, because they'll do one sentence of themselves and then they'll go, and how about you? How are you?
Right. Yeah.
So if you're paying somebody to listen to you, you're more apt to keep talking about what you need to do.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So value the love that is in your life instead of focusing on what's missing. Set limits, say no, this is not a good time to talk, or no, I will not be able to help when you feel that another's request or demand would be too stressful for you. Get in touch with your angry feelings. Sometimes twos feel overwhelmed and cry instead of dealing directly with what made them angry. Write down your resentments on a daily basis to become more aware of them. If you feel you are being treated unfairly or being taken advantage of, speak up as reasonably as possible right away. In relationships, try to be your own person, not the one others want you to be. Refrain from automatically offering to help and give advice. Wait until asked. Be honest about what you want. Take pleasure in giving little things in little ways. Stop over giving and graciously accept when people give to you. For parents, help your children become independent. Learn ways to stop excessive worrying about your grown children. Develop interest of your own to help you detach. Be aware of the tendencies to instill guilt in your children. And codependence. Go slowly when entering a new relationship. Get information. Be objective. Avoid relationships with needy or unavailable people. Only accept friendships and partnerships that are equal. Don't rescue people. Allow others to be responsible for their own behavior. Be aware of your desire for sex may camouflage your need for attention and approval. Resist rushing into another relationship when one ends. Take time to learn why the relationship failed. Get to know yourself and develop other interests. Well, these are all easy things to say, aren't they now?
I think the resist rushing into another relationship when one ends is good advice for all of us.
Right.
Yeah.
Again,
Right.
we all have these tendencies. Work. Set limits so you don't take on more than your fair share of work. Now remember, this concludes volunteer work, my friends. Develop assertiveness and objectivity. Find work that suits your personality, your interest, and your training. Here you go. Things 2s would never dream of doing. Refusing to smile at someone for a month. Accepting all compliments with a simple thank you. And not discounting them, brushing them off, or explaining why they weren't deserved. Not wanting to take home an adorable kitten they had found. Not wanting to pay friends back tenfold after the friends had done them a favor. Not giving a second thought to coworker snub. Or, co-volunteer. Telling a friend they couldn't give them a ride to the airport and not giving or making up any excuses. Saying only a simple goodbye and not adding good luck, stay well, have a nice day.
Yeah, right. Oh.
Hey, what do I know? Pretend you don't know what the solution is to everybody's problem. Now, positive things to say to yourself. I am as important as everyone else. It is as important to me to receive love and help as to give them. I will speak up for what I want. I do not have to give to be loved. It is important for me to spend some quality time with myself. Well, there you go, my friends. That's the end of our presentation. And I noticed one more time, it's 7:11 instead of 7 o'clock. And I want you to know that I wanted to discuss this for a minute with you. I find that we need about 15 extra minutes. It's hard to get through all our material in one flat hour. Are you all right with 7:15 as the end of our meeting? I mean, if you have to go before, but it would help me feel comfortable that we could say by 7:15 we're done.
As
Even
long as,
7:30. Go ahead,
Hmm?
Meg.
It's okay with me.
as long as you don't feel that when we have to leave that we're not listening to what you have to say. Like tonight, for example, I have a Zoom with Eric at 7:30. So as long as if I have planned something else, you won't be offended that it's you, not the other person I'm Zooming with. You know what I mean?
I'm not sure which personality type that is, but let me tell you, 8s are never offended at stuff like that.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
like the same with me. Like
Yeah, you have to go for your class.
2 times a month, I go for my camera club meeting, but on the other times I'd be okay to.
If
like
you're
you
okay,
say,
I mean, I'm okay.
10:15.
Yep. I'm okay if you have to leave earlier, as long as you're okay if we need to take the extra 15 minutes, because I don't want us to not be able to talk about, let people share and talk about the experiences of the personality types.
Right.
I usually will have to leave right around 7:15, so that's perfect for me, but the handout really helps me to get prepared for it ahead of time, so
Good.
I'm fine with it either way, so take the time we need, I mean, and I can always listen in on the website, so for the last 10 minutes, so I'm fine with it.
Okay,
That being
great.
said, good night, everyone.
Good night, Roger.
Night.
Great to have you. All right, so if we're all good with that, then I want to thank you all for a wonderful night and great sharing. And I'm really glad we're all together doing this journey. This is really, really wonderful. So I want to leave you with a prayer that you will all know how beautiful you are in the eyes of God. And I pray for the Spirit to continue to bless you and open you up to know more about who you are and the gifts that you bring, and to be available to the healing that God wants to give you at this time, so that you may be even more free and joyous in the pure essence of who you are. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.
Good job, Jack.
All right. Good night. God bless you, my sweethearts.
Yeah, see you Sunday.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.